In at number 10, paid paparazzi. If you've ever wondered why some celebrities look amazing in paparazzi photos while others don't, it's because a lot of celebrities hire their own paparazzi to make sure they never look bad in a photo. The most recent celebrity to get called out for using this tactic was Addison Rae. While Addison was out in New York, she happened to get a ton of great photos of herself out and about in the city, and Page Six called her out for tipping off the paparazzi about her location so she can get a ton of good pictures. Page Six called it, quote, a move straight out of the introductory course at the Kardashian Institute of Advanced Fame Grasp. Apparently Addison specifically wanted good photos of her outfits so that she could become known for her style. This move has long been used by the Kardashians back when they were up and coming, and now it seems that Addison is taking tips from her new friends. In at number 9, fake relationships. I think at this point it's clear that most Hollywood relationships are faked for PR. Occasionally these fake relationships actually turn into real love, but most of the time these fake couples split as soon as the movie comes out, making it painfully obvious. One of the most obvious cases of this was the on and off again relationship between Robert Pattinson and Kristen Stewart during the Twilight days. These two would always be in a relationship when their newest movies were dropping, but then a few weeks after the release, they would break up. Since they split almost immediately after the final Breaking Dawn movie was released, it's clear that it was all a lie. Also, the pair looked so uncomfortable when they were together, and now that we see what they look like in a happy relationship, it's clear that they weren't in one. In at number 8, award show corruption. Many fans assume that Oscars and Grammys are given to those who truly deserve it, but once you pull back the curtain, that's really not how it works. And an open secret is that anyone who wants to win one of these awards must campaign for it and basically bribe the judges. This can be in the form of actual money or things like vacations and expensive gifts. Back in 1981, actress Pia Zendora won the Best Newcomer award for her role in the movie Butterfly. It was a shock to everyone until it was exposed that her husband paid off the voting members to ensure that she won, and over time the practice did not get better. In 2011, publicist Michael Russell sued the Hollywood Foreign Press Association for firing him. He was trying to expose the corruption with the award show, and they didn't like that. The parties settled the dispute out of court. In at number 7, fake bodies. It's no secret that almost everyone in Hollywood has had some work done. Usually it's minor things like Botox and fillers to maintain youthfulness, but some celebrities went through major changes before making it big, and these cosmetic procedures were the reason that it all happened. Apparently it's an open secret that celebrities will change their bodies to adapt to the times to maintain marketability. But the worst part is that most celebrities don't own up to these big changes, so fans will think these people are effortlessly perfect, and it starts to impact the everyday person's self-esteem. One of the most common procedures seems to be a nose job, and most celebrities that are deemed au naturel have had it done. Blake Lively, Scarlett Johansson, and Jennifer Aniston are just some of the celebrities that fans are convinced had nose jobs, but they will never admit it to fans who think it's all elite genetics. And at number 6, cheating. Movies often take months to film. That's long, grueling hours away from family and friends, stuck with the small same group of people. Because of how it all works, movie sets are breeding grounds for extramarital affairs, especially if you're spending a lot of time with your love interest in the movie that you're hugging and kissing all day on set. There are truly too many examples to name, but there's a solid chance that one of your favorite actors cheated on their spouse during the filming of a hit movie. The most famous are Angelina Jolie and Brad Pitt in Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and Kristen Stewart and director Rupert Sanders during the filming of their project. And obviously this happens a lot more than it's reported. Halfway number 5, fake names. The vast majority of Hollywood A-listers do not use their real names, instead they concocted a stage name. This is done for a variety of reasons. Sometimes just because their old name isn't as flashy, but other times the reasons are pretty dark. For some examples of celebrities with fake names, Martin Sheen's real name is Raymond Antonio Gerard Estevez, Jamie Foxx's name is Eric Marlon Bishop, and Marilyn Monroe's real name was Norma Jean Mortensen. Then other times a name change can be used to hide nepotism. Like for instance, Nicolas Cage's real name is Nicholas Coppola, and he's the nephew of Francis Ford Coppola, a famous Hollywood director. This familial connection landed Nick Cage his first role in the movie Peggy Sue Got Married. Other times a name change can be to hide racism. Marvel Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. actor Chloe Bennett, real name Chloe Wang, said, quote, "Hollywood is racist and wouldn't cast me with the last name that made them uncomfortable." In at number 4, stuntmen regularly lose their lives. Stuntmen are a very common thing on movie sets, because A-list actors aren't able to do the stunts that we see in a lot of action movies. But fans might not know what a dangerous job that it is. is, and stuntmen regularly get critically injured or even lose their lives. And for how vital their role is to these movies, they are not paid fairly. The average stunt person pulls in about $250K a year, which sounds great, but is nothing compared to the about $20 million that the movie stars are making. Big name stars are obviously the ones that sell the tickets, but they're not the ones who put their lives on the line. During the filming of Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1, Daniel Radcliffe's stunt double David Holmes got hit by a staged explosion, and he was so seriously injured by the fragments that he suffered a neck break that left him fully paralyzed. Then on the set of Deadpool 2, a stuntman lost their life during a car crash scene. In at number 3, substance misuse. Following the release of the biopic Judy, we got to see the horrible practices the movie execs would use to get their talent to do what they wanted, specifically using illicit substances to wake the actors up and keep them on set working for very long hours. According to a 1982 New York Times article, use of these substances became so common that movie insurers would put clauses in their contracts to cut losses from these sorts of incidents, because several deaths and injuries on set stem from the use of these substances. In her 2013 memoir, Debbie Reynolds, the female lead for the 1952 musical Singing in the Rain, recalled that when her grueling schedule started to take a toll on her health, a studio executive told her to quote, take vitamin shots from his doctor. Then Judy Garland revealed her mother would give her quote, pep pills to ensure she had enough energy to film all day. Because of the toll these substances took on her health, Judy unfortunately passed away at the age of 47 because of an OD from these substances. In at number 2, inappropriate behavior runs rampant. So I'm gonna have to dance around the subject a bit for this one, but the things that have been exposed during the Me Too and Time's Up era are not new and have been happening for decades. Harvey Weinstein wasn't the first and only power player in Hollywood to use his power to get women to do what he wanted. And this all goes back to the idea of the quote casting couch, where you are expected to do sexual favors to these executives in exchange for a role. And there are many examples of this behavior taking place in Hollywood. Even worse, this behavior can also happen against One study even found that 94% of women employed in the American film industry have experienced sexual harassment or worse. This is a staggering number that should make everyone push for change. And finally, number 1, discrimination problem. The problem of diversity in Hollywood is something that's being brought up more and more over the years, and when we look at some of the stats, it's pretty wild. Only one woman has ever won the Oscar for Best Director, and that was Kathryn Bigelow for the 2008 movie The Hurt Locker. Also, only one African American has ever won the Oscar for Best Original Screenplay in the history of the Academy. That was Jordan Peele in 2018 for Get Out. But the problem is not only in the cast and crew of the movies, it's the higher up of the business in general. A 2016 Washington Post investigation reported that 96% of Hollywood's decision makers were white and 87% of them were male. Clearly a large gap between those demographics and what we see in society today. A study of 100 movies released in 2016 also showed that about 70% of speaking roles in that year's top 100 films were white, leaving 30% to account for Black, Asian, and Hispanic people. Another shocking stat was that just 31% of speaking characters were female.
In at number 10, Janet Jackson. It's very rare that a celebrity in Hollywood is able to keep their relationship, or marriage for that matter, under the radar. However, Janet Jackson has been able to keep her multiple marriages and subsequent divorces all a secret from the tabloids. First, she was married to singer-songwriter Renee Elizondo in 1991, and that union remained under wraps until she filed for divorce in 2000. She then managed to keep her next marriage to billionaire Wissam Almana in 2012 a secret as well. This marriage actually really ended up changing Janet. She moved to London and abandoned her look to opt for a more conservative garb in line with Almana's Muslim religion. The couple wed 2 years after they met, and much to everyone's surprise, the then 50-year-old Janet announced that she was pregnant with son Issa, who was born in January of this year. To even greater surprise, Janet then announced her separation from Almana 4 months later. In at number 9, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is typically all about the laugh, so it's really hard to believe her when she's talking about her late brother, a convicted pedophile. The public first learned about her older brother Kenny in her best-selling autobiography My Life on the D-List, and in the book Kathy spoke about growing up with her brother and how she felt a very violent energy whenever he was around. She even admitted to witnessing him beating up his own wife. What's just as disturbing was when Kathy explained how he was sexually inappropriate with her from the time that she was just a little girl. Ultimately, this shaped the way that she perceived the world and herself as she grew up. Kenny Griffin ended up going to prison and eventually passed away. In at number 8, Rose McGowan. Ever since the beginning of the Time's Up and Me Too movement, actress Rose McGowan has been an outspoken force for change. As a result, she's been very open about her own personal secrets involving mental illness and sexual abuse. Growing up, her life was plagued with pain because her parents belonged to a cult called the Children of God. According to Rose, the members believed in free love, and so she was raised in a commune where mistreating women was just normalized. She even cited that men in the cult would regularly mistreat women and force them to act as servants. In at number 7, Holly Madison. Having frequently visited the Playboy Mansion when she was a 20-year-old college student in Los Angeles, the aspiring actress decided to move into the the house a year later in 2001. The Oregon native, who was familiar with Playboy and had been a fan, soon became Hugh Hefner's lead girlfriend, and the two appeared to fall madly in love. Over the course of their 7 years together, their untraditional relationship was followed on the E! Channel series called The Girls Next Door. Holly acted as the loyal wife figure alongside co-stars and fellow girlfriends Kendra and Bridget. However, in a bizarre series of events, Holly left the mansion claiming that Hugh had refused to marry her. That being said, this is exactly how Hef wanted things to appear to the general public. In her memoir titled Down the Rabbit Hole, she spoke openly about their relationship and revealed some deep-rooted secrets that Hugh never wanted us to know. Apparently, he knew that she was unhappy and just ignored her. Upon reflecting on it, she said that even though she gave 7 years of her life, the man could barely have a conversation with her. In at number 6, Melissa Joan Hart. Melissa Joan Hart may be a happily married mother of 3, but during her time as Sabrina the Teenage Witch, she partied like every other Hollywood star. In the 1990s, she appeared to be this squeaky clean actor, but that was just an image put forth by executives. In her tell-all book called Melissa Explains It All, she speaks very openly about all of the secret stories that she had to keep under wraps while acting in Hollywood. In one portion of the book, she says that she experimented with weed, ecstasy, mushrooms, and mescaline for about a year and a half. Looks like her broomstick wasn't the only thing that was getting her high. Am I right? Up top. No? Okay. On top of that, she spilled crazy details about making out with a woman in a limo and then heading to a Maxim photo shoot while still high, then revealing that it was her 3rd or 4th time on ecstasy for this photo shoot. Although all this bad behavior, she says, is attributed to the bad crowd that she was hanging around with. I think she claimed also that Paris Hilton once offered her cocaine at a party, but obviously she denied. In at number 5, Daniel Radcliffe. Where does the time go? It feels like only yesterday that we were watching the adventures of Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Although because we were so engulfed in following Daniel Radcliffe bring this character to life, we failed to notice when he grew up. Not only that, but his confession that he had a drinking problem was sadly something that no one wanted to hear about. Thankfully, he beat this in 2010, but the actor himself has revealed that he would show up to the set of Harry Potter still intoxicated from the night before. Daniel said that there were times during his teen years where he felt like he was being watched, and while admitting that most of that may have been in his own head, he still didn't know how to deal with it. During an interview with Off Camera, he said, "In my case, the quickest way to forget about the fact that you're being watched is to get very drunk." In an interview for The Guardian, he said that he turned to alcohol to cope with the pressure of fame and potential failure. And as I mentioned, he has been sober since 2010, but said that his friends played a big role in his recovery. Although he did reveal some pretty crazy stuff about being intoxicated while filming Harry Potter. Daniel said, "I can honestly say I never drank at work on Harry Potter. I went into work still drunk, but I never drank at work. I can point to many scenes where I'm just gone, dead behind the eyes." That really changes that movie series for me. In at number 4, Jackie Chan. There are very few actors in the world that have forsaken their health and safety like Jackie Chan just in order to do their own stunts. As a master of the martial arts, he's put his skills to the test both physically and comedically. Over the course of his illustrious career, he has injured himself countless times but somehow remains unfazed. It's most likely because Jackie grew up in a family of risk takers. His mother, Li Chan, was a drug dealer, and his father actually was a secret agent for the Nationalist Guard. His father ended up fleeing to Hong Kong after Mao took power in 1949, and his mother was forced to abandon her first 2 children due to extreme poverty. Jackie Chan's parents actually met in the most bizarre way possible, a reason for meeting that Jackie would keep quiet for many years. Lily and Charles Chan met when he busted her for drug possession. He ended up taking pity on her and then just letting her go. I mean, what an origin story for this Hollywood superstar. In at number 3, Richard Pryor. More often than not, comedians have very tragic backstories, and that can certainly be said for the legendary comedian Richard Pryor. The actor and comic struggled with addictions throughout his life. He was married 7 times and even lit himself on fire once. However, his upbringing was even more of a personal struggle. Richard Pryor's mother, Gertrude, was a prostitute who worked out of his grandmother Marie's brothel. When Gertrude abandoned her son when he was only 10 years old, he was left in the hands of his abusive grandmother. Pryor's paternal side also didn't do him any favors. His father, Leroy, was a hustler and a boxer, yet despite his own demons and secrets, Pryor was able to turn his pain into comedy. In at number 2, 50 Cent. A lot of rappers talk about living a gangster lifestyle, but some of them actually do it. 50 Cent might seem egotistical and talk a big game, but the rapper has had a very tough childhood. The rapper, whose real name is Curtis Jackson, was born in Queens, New York, and his mother, Sabrina, was just 15 years old when she gave birth to him. Sabrina ended up turning to drug dealing to feed her son and became one of the most notorious drug dealers in the area. Unfortunately, she was killed in an unexplained fire when Jackson was only 8 years old. Still, he would go on to follow in her footsteps with drug dealing and was even shot 9 times in May of 2000. At the age of 19, an undercover police officer had arrested Jackson for selling 4 vials of cocaine, and then his home was raided 3 weeks later. He was then sentenced to 3 to 9 years, and he went to a boot camp instead to get his GED, but at this time he was already rapping and took on the name 50 Cent, which actually was an original moniker of a Brooklyn crook from the 1980s. Bunch of secrets in there for you that you could read on an autobiography page. Last but certainly not least our number one spot, Keith Richards. Nobody who started their career in the music business in the 1960s, and I mean nobody, has remained untouched by the glorious days of sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is especially valid for the musicians of the legendary rock bands, most of whom have admitted to having consumed all kinds of substances in their time. But none of those are as bizarre as the one that Keith Richards of the Rolling Stones is said to have sampled. In 2007, a magazine revealed that the 72-year-old guitarist once mixed his father's ashes with cocaine and then snorted him. The veteran of drug marathons was convinced that his father wouldn't have objected at all, and added that he went down pretty well. Many years later, Richards realized that being still alive after decades of drug and alcohol abuse was just pure luck. He also advised that others not follow in his footsteps, and definitely abstain from snorting their parents.
At number 10, Corey Haim. Unfortunately, as much as there's glitz and glam in Hollywood, there's also a dark side, one of those dark sides being harming and manipulating others. This is sadly something that actor Corey Haim experienced as a child actor in Hollywood. Both he and his best friend Corey Feldman experienced the dark side of Hollywood, and though Feldman has been pretty outspoken about what he endured, Haim on the other hand kept that top secret. The one thing that he kept absolutely hidden was the identity of the person who seriously harmed him. Haim went to the grave knowing the identity of the person who harmed him, but this secret isn't completely lost, as it's alleged that Corey Feldman actually knows who did it. Feldman tried in the past to get his friend to expose the person who caused him so much pain, but Haim refused because he was so scared that this individual would try and hurt them again. Haim made Corey promise that he would share the story of what happened to them if he died, and Corey did share some details, but again, the identity of the person who hurt Corey Haim remains a secret. At number 9, Gene Wilder. When someone is diagnosed with a serious illness, it becomes a very tough and very personal decision of whether or not to tell people about it. I know people who chose to keep their illness a secret until the end, and this is exactly what actor Gene Wilder did. Gene passed away in 2016, but it wasn't until after he died that the public learned about the secret that he was keeping in regards to his health. It turned out that the actor had been battling Alzheimer's for over 3 years before he passed away. After learning this, a lot of people wanted to know why this news was kept secret from the public, and the reason behind it is so touching. Gene didn't reveal his condition to the public because he wanted people to remember him as he was and not someone who was sick. He wanted to keep the smiles on the faces of his fans. In a statement released by Gene's family, they elaborated on the situation, saying, quote, "The decision to wait until this time to disclose his condition wasn't vanity, but more so that the countless young children that would smile or call out to him, 'There's Willy Wonka,' would not have to be then exposed to an adult referencing illness or trouble and causing delight to travel to worry, disappointment, or confusion. He simply couldn't bear the idea of one less smile in the world." End quote. At number 8, David Cassidy. Oftentimes we try our best to be open and honest with our struggles in life, but for some it's hard to share some of the things that you might not be too proud of. This is what caused actor David Cassidy to keep a pretty big secret from the public that wasn't actually revealed until after he passed away. Before he passed away, David shared with the public his struggles with dementia. Fans believed that the actor was suffering from the disease, and so when news broke of his death, people just assumed that it was the dementia that ultimately took him. But it wasn't until the documentary about the actor called David Cassidy, The Last Session, came out that the public learned the truth about David's health. It turned out that the actor was never actually diagnosed with dementia, and that this wasn't what was harming his health. Instead, it was alcohol poisoning that he was struggling with, and that ultimately took his life. In the documentary, the actor admitted to everything, saying, quote, "There is no sign of me having dementia at this stage in my life. It was complete alcohol poisoning, and the fact is, I lied about my drinking." End quote. One of the documentary's producers spoke out about having known about the actor's struggles before the public, where they said, quote, "We didn't want to exploit him, but ultimately he was honest about what killed him, and we decided that his legacy would be best served if we shared that." End quote. Before we carry on talking about some of the juiciest celebrity secrets, why not take a brief moment to leave a like on this video if you're enjoying it so far, and while you're at it, why not subscribe to the channel to see more videos like this one. At number 7, Rock Hudson. Imagine taking one of the biggest secrets about who you really are to your grave. That's essentially what happened with famed Hollywood actor Rock Hudson. Rock was one of the hottest leading males in Hollywood in his heyday, but he lived with a huge secret for his whole life, and people didn't end up finding out about it until after his passing. When Rock passed away in 1985, it was revealed that he had died from AIDS. He became one of the first and most famous Hollywood celebrities to pass away from the illness. Because the illness was so heavily associated with being gay, speculation began to float around saying that Rock had been hiding his sexuality from the public this whole time. This all turned out to be 100% true, as friends and family of Rock confirmed what the public had been thinking in a biography on the actor. In the book, it was revealed that he had an ex-boyfriend named Lee Garlington, and he was described as Rock's true love. Rock's secret was really only known by his closest friends and family and an inner circle of Hollywood, and a lot of them fought to keep his sexuality a secret in order to preserve his career. I couldn't imagine how tough it would be to have to keep such a big part of who you are a secret from the world. At number 6, Sally Ride. Up next, we have another celebrity who unfortunately didn't get to live their life as open as they should have been able to, as they went to the grave with a huge secret. Astronaut Sally Ride was the first American woman to go to space. She became widely known for her presence in the NASA community, promoting education and interest in space, and specifically devoted much of her life to helping girls excel in STEM. She did a lot for her community, especially women and young girls, but there was another community that she was a part of that no one really knew about until after she passed away. When Sally passed away in 2012, her title grew to not only be the first American woman to go to space, but also the first astronaut to be acknowledged as gay. Sally's sexuality was never public knowledge until her obituary named a woman named Tan O'Shaughnessy as her partner of 27 years. At number 5, Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston's personal life was often a hot topic in the media during her life. People were obsessed with what went on behind closed doors, the good and the bad. Though a lot of her personal life was exposed, one thing that remained a secret until her tragic passing was a horrible incident that she had endured when she was younger. After some digging and a published documentary, the world learned that Whitney was once a victim of inappropriate contact. After the singer passed away, her former assistant told the documentary team that Whitney had once confided in her to tell her about what she had endured when she was younger. The assistant told cameras, quote, "Whitney looked at me and said, 'Mary, I was harmed at a young age too, but it wasn't by a man, it was a woman. She had tears in her eyes. She says, Mommy doesn't know the things that we went through.'" End quote. Though she never spoke publicly about what happened to her, it is believed that Whitney once hinted at it in an interview when she got really emotional when talking about adults taking advantage of children. At number 4, George Michael. Imagine being portrayed negatively in the media for basically your whole career just for the narrative to make a 180 after your passing. This is the case with singer George Michael and how his public image changed after he passed away. During his career, George was seen as scandalous, and the media really dug into this while he was alive, but after he passed away in 2016, the truth about who George Michael really was came out, and it was a very different narrative. He took the secret of his philanthropy to his grave, but many people wish that he was around to be appreciated for giving back to the people. The public came to learn that the singer made many large donations to a wide array of charities like cancer support groups and the Terrence Higgins Trust, which is an HIV awareness group. He kept all of his donations a secret and made sure that no one receiving these donations knew that he was behind it. He was a secret angel giving back to people without receiving any credit, which just shows that this help was genuine, not just for good press. At number 3, Prince. Another celebrity who was something of a secret angel of sorts was Prince. After he passed away in 2016, secrets about the singer started to come out, some of those secrets being about his philanthropy. One person, an environmentalist who worked for the Green Jobs Act, came forward to talk about one of the donations that they had once received anonymously from Prince, where they said that they received a check for $50,000. At first, they sent the check back because it was so out of the blue and they didn't really trust it, but to their surprise, the check came back again, this time with a phone call. The environmentalist then went on to say that the person on the phone said, quote, "I cannot tell you who the money is coming from, but his favorite color is purple." End quote. On top of this anonymous donation, Prince also co-founded an educational effort to help teach minority youths technology called #YesWeCode, and he also made a donation to the family of Trayvon Martin. Speaking out about Prince's philanthropy, his ex-wife said that he never wanted to make these donations public so as to not overshadow the charity or the case. At number 2, Anthony Perkins. Known for his role as Norman Bates in the Hitchcock film Psycho, actor Anthony Perkins lived a pretty quiet and private life, but he also took a very big secret to his grave. When news broke of his passing in 1992, it came as a sudden shock to people. But what the public didn't know at the time was that Anthony had been secretly battling a serious illness that he kept from the public. For 2 years before his passing, the actor had been secretly receiving treatment for AIDS. Speaking out about her husband's treatment, Anthony's wife told sources, quote, "He went twice to stay at a hospital and once as an outpatient, and we went under another name. You think that this man has spent his entire life giving people so much pleasure in show business, and this is his reward. He can't even be himself at the end." end quote. Anthony knew that when the public found out about his condition after his passing, there would be a lot of questions as to why he never publicly revealed his condition, and so before he died, he wrote a statement to be read once he passed on. In the statement, the actor wrote, quote, "I chose not to go public about having AIDS because, to misquote Casablanca, I'm not much at being noble, but it doesn't take much to see that the problems of one old actor doesn't amount to a hill of beans in this crazy world." End quote. And finally, at number 1, Billy Tipton. Billy Tipton was a famous jazz musician who kept a huge secret from everyone. This secret was so hush-hush that not even his closest friends or family knew. Billy had a pretty solid career in the beginning. The 40s and 50s were Billy's time to shine, rising to fame and taking American jazz by storm. Billy's career started to decline, however, after he declined an offer for a recording contract and to open for Liberace. After that, the musician started to fade out of the spotlight. Over the course of his life, Billy was married 5 times, adopted 3 kids, and was considered to be a real family man. But one day, when Billy suddenly collapsed, his secret was revealed. While paramedics were trying to save him, it was discovered that Billy wasn't biologically male. Like I mentioned before, no one knew. Literally no one, so this came as a shock to everyone. It turns out that Billy dressed as a man in order to be allowed into the world of jazz. Because of this huge secret, Billy was forced to live a pretty private life in order to avoid being caught.
So starting off at number 10, we have Kris Jenner. Kris Jenner revealed one of her most regretful secrets in her memoir, Kris Jenner and All Things Kardashian. In the book, she gave details on her affair with Todd Waterman that happened while she was still married to Rob Kardashian. She wrote in her memoir, quote, "We had sex everywhere, all the time, out of control, crazy, dangerous, wild sex." She admitted to doing it in cars, on the tennis court, in the pool house, and even the garage. Jenner opened up in interviews later that she thinks it was her age that caused her to make the mistake. Since she met Rob at the age of 18, then married him at 22, she was getting bored of their marriage after 10 years of being together. And when she was introduced to Todd, who was 10 years younger than her, she was smitten. Adding that people always think the grass is greener, but she deeply regrets her cheating. And at number 9, Drew Barrymore. Drew Barrymore has been opening up about her horrible childhood and all the terrible things she did when she was just a preteen. In her book, she revealed that she got into drugs when she was just 10 years old. Writing, quote, "When I was 10 and a half, I was sitting in the back seat of a car driven by a friend's mother. She started smoking pot. I wanted to try it for a long time, but I was afraid if I asked, she'd say, 'No way, Drew, you're too young.' However, she offered me some, and I said, 'Sure, I'll try it.' I was shocked. But she had that look to say, 'Isn't it cute, a little girl getting stoned?' And she also just revealed on an episode of her show with Paris Hilton that she went to behavioral schools when she was younger because she was so out of control, and she was locked in solitary many times. And at number 8, Woody Harrelson. Actor Woody Harrelson has been part of the film industry for decades now, and he's a true Hollywood legend. But while you might never expect him to have some familial skeletons in the closet, he does, and his father was actually a notorious hitman. And he actually committed the first assassination of a judge in the 20th century. But that was not his only one. He also killed a carpet salesman for $1,500 after a deal fell through. Apparently, Harrelson found out about his father's occupation when he was 12 years old. Charles Harrelson passed away in prison in 2009. And at number 7, Rihanna. Rihanna is one of the most successful female musicians of all time, but she's another star with some family issues that she tried to keep a secret. Apparently one day out of the blue, Rihanna discovered that her father, Ronald Fenty, had another secret family. And that meant that Rihanna had 2 sisters and 1 brother that she never knew existed, with all of the 3 siblings having different mothers. Her father was also addicted to alcohol, drugs, and sex. But after some time, it seems that Rihanna has been the bigger person, and they've been able to repair their relationship. And at number 6, Kathy Griffin. Kathy Griffin is a woman known for making everyone around her laugh. But like with a lot of comedians, Kathy used humor to cope with a lot of the bad she was dealt when she was younger. In her autobiography, My Life on the D-List, she speaks about the trauma she endured because of her brother, Kenny. She wrote that he was inappropriate with her very often, and that led her to have a lot of internal issues. She also claims that when she was around him, she felt a dark and even violent presence. She even spoke further in the book about some things that she witnessed in adulthood, saying that she once saw him hurting his own wife. He eventually went to prison and then ended up passing away, but the bad memories still live with her. Halfway number 5, Mariah Carey. It was revealed that Mariah Carey was suffering from bipolar disorder, but the unfortunate part is that it wasn't Mariah herself that shared it with the world, but rather her sister. Because of her sister's comments, Mariah opened up about her sister and the issues that she has that affects Mariah as well. Mariah's sister Allison claimed that Mariah had been struggling with the disorder for years, but the relationship between the sisters is more than a little strange, and they allegedly hadn't spoken since 1994 at the time. Allison has been arrested multiple times for illegal activities, and she once told undercover cops that she could, quote, give them a sweet, sweet fantasy. Allison also calls out Mariah for not helping her with her medication, since she deals with her own issues and is in need of money to pay for the medication. Because of this, Allison has tried to extort her sister multiple times for money, which I'm sure is incredibly exhausting for Mariah. In at number 4, Lori Loughlin. This is one I'm sure you know of, but some big names in Hollywood were exposed big time when Operation Varsity Blues found that Lori Loughlin and Felicity Huffman had bribed their child's way into prestigious universities. Loughlin and her husband, fashion guru Massimo Giannulli, were accused of paying $500,000 to get their daughters Olivia J. Giannulli and Bella Giannulli into USC on the crew team, when, as I'm sure that you already know, they never even played the sport. In light of everything, the family lost tons of sponsorship deals, and Loughlin's contract with Hallmark came to an abrupt end. And in the end, Lori was sentenced to 2 months in prison for her crimes. And now the family's reputation will probably never be the same. And at number 3, Demi Moore. Demi Moore spilled everything about her marriage to Ashton Kutcher in her 2019 memoir, Inside Out. And there are things in the book that I'm sure she was reluctant to bring to light again. In the book, she talks about the tumultuous 8-year marriage to Ashton Kutcher, giving details on the fact that they had a threesome because Ashton essentially begged for it. After it happened, Moore was regretful about the situation, but it seemed that Ashton was not, and only made him more distant in the marriage. Writing in her book, quote, because we'd brought in a third party into our relationship, Ashton said that blurred the lines and to some extent justified what he'd done, speaking about the fact that it led to him cheating down the line. But the marriage was over after he admitted to cheating on her with a 21-year-old woman in 2011, adding in an interview that the divorce is the reason she had a relapse with her alcohol addiction. Saying in the Red Table Talk interview, quote, the addiction was in the codependency. My addiction to Ashton was probably almost more devastating than alcohol because it took me seriously away emotionally. And because she had spilled all of these secrets, she was asked why she decided to talk about all this now, with her responding, quote, I think my desire was to really get to a place where I'm okay to really be seen. Adding, quote, when there isn't anything to protect, that's a great spot. And at number 2, Allison Mack. The case of Smallville actor Allison Mack was one of the most shocking and disturbing in recent years. On April 20th of 2018, the actor was arrested in Brooklyn on charges of sex trafficking, along with other similar crimes. Apparently, she was heavily involved in a bad group of people called NXIVM, and apparently she was used to recruit women into the group. And then these victims were later exploited by the group in numerous ways. After a lengthy trial, Mack pled guilty to the charges. However, it's been over a year since she was sentenced, and no time has actually been given. So she's been on house arrest in her parents' house this whole time. And at number 1, Meghan Markle. Since Meghan Markle became one of the most famous people on earth basically overnight, a lot has been exposed about her, a lot that I'm sure she wishes didn't. One thing is that her sister said she, quote, is a social climber with a soft spot for gingers. Okay. But one of the biggest secrets about Meghan that people are pretty convinced is true is that she used to author a shady blog about the industry. The blog was called, quote, The Working Actress. And to give you an idea of some of the stuff she wrote about, the blog said it was documenting the ups and downs of a hustling young actress in the cutthroat world of Hollywood. In February 2018, the Daily Mail reported that impeccable sources from California confirmed that Meghan Markle wrote the blog, with an actor named Lance Carter telling Daily Mail, quote, yeah, it was definitely Meghan who wrote it. Then in Andrew Morton's biography, Meghan, a Hollywood Princess, the magazine included The Working Actress in a list of the royals' former jobs. So clearly her more public blog, The Tig, wasn't all she was writing.
In at number 10, Katie Holmes. Just 5 days before Tom Cruise celebrated his 50th birthday, his wife of 5 years, Katie Holmes, filed for divorce in New York. The world was completely shocked by this secret being unearthed. The couple had been spotted together on the set of Oblivion in Iceland just days before, and they were strolling along like nothing was going on. Everything's fine, don't look at us. Apparently Holmes orchestrated her escape, if you will, from Cruise very carefully. She set up secret meetings with lawyers and prepared to battle for sole custody of their daughter Suri. Now, although the details leading up to this was kept secret, if you were watching the tabloids, one could assume that she was using them to shift the public's perspective. Katie Holmes used the sympathies of the tabloids to convince people that she was just this kind of passive wife of Tom Cruise, was a maniac, which is believable, right? The weirdest part was that right after her divorce, she had all of these events set up where there would be people there to photograph her. Normally, following a divorce, you would think that you'd, maybe take some time to yourself, take some time off from work maybe, but no, she just went right to the cover of the August issue of Elle magazine. In at number 9, Prince. Prince has always been a wild and eccentric character. I mean, in 1993, he literally changed his name to a symbol. If that's not the definition of an enigma, I don't know what is. Although this brilliant musician was hiding a big secret from the world. For his entire life, Prince had been coping with epilepsy, which is a serious medical condition. Although in 2009, he revealed this secret during an interview with PBS. In the interview, Prince told host Tavis Smiley, "I've never spoken about this before, but I was born epileptic. I used to have seizures when I was young. My mother and father didn't know what to do or how to handle it, but they did the best they could with what little they had." Although Prince said that after a while, he was able to keep his condition largely under control. He also noted, though, that this control over his epilepsy came by way of an angel that spoke to him. In at number 8, Selena Gomez. In typical rumor mill fashion, when singer Selena Gomez decided to cancel part of her world tour in 2013, the gossip magazines did all kinds of speculating as to why. They said she was battling a drug and alcohol addiction and listed a plethora of other unconfirmed conspiracies. The real reason that these types of stories kind of bubble up is because of how secretive celebrities are. Although, can we blame them? I'm sure there are some parts of their life that they just want to keep quiet. And turns out Gomez had been hiding a secret from the world, but it had nothing to do with indulging in addictions. Later on, Selena revealed to Billboard that she had to undergo chemotherapy to treat lupus, a chronic autoimmune disease. She mainly wanted to wait for the right time to talk about it, and when she did, she didn't want to be loud about the whole thing. Selena just wanted to wait so that she could properly use her platform to help spread awareness. In at number 7, Leighton Meester. You'd never be able to tell by how she carries herself today, but this polished celebrity was actually born in a Texas prison while her mother was serving time for drug smuggling. Though her mother was allowed to spend 12 weeks in a halfway house with newborn Leighton, she was soon sent back to jail. Meester ended up living with her grandmother in Florida until her mother was released. At 10, her family moved to New York so that she could begin a career in modeling, only to then pack up again 4 years later and head to Los Angeles. Once in Hollywood, she began auditioning for various roles while taking acting classes, but she found it difficult to relate to kids her age because of her unstable upbringing, an upbringing that she kept hidden for a very long time. Her breakout acting role was when she portrayed Blair Waldorf on Gossip Girl, a character whose mother was the owner of a fashion empire, which, as you can imagine, was a stark contrast from her actual childhood. Today, though, she was worth an estimated $16 million. In at number 6, Caitlyn Jenner. Back in 1971, Jenner participated in their first decathlon, and by 1972, Jenner was competing in the decathlon at the Munich Olympics. At those Olympics, they finished 10th overall in the event, and in 1976, Jenner went on to win the gold in the decathlon at the Montreal Olympics and was declared by the media to be the world's greatest athlete. Jenner was able to accomplish all of this while living with a deep personal secret that wouldn't be shared with the public for, another 40 years? In 2014, Jenner announced that they were divorcing from longtime wife Kris Jenner, and just a year later, Jenner shocked the world when they revealed that they had undergone gender reassignment surgery. At the age of 65, Caitlyn Jenner introduced herself to the world, and by 2015, ESPN had awarded Jenner the Arthur Ashe Courage Award, and to this day, Caitlyn is one of the most prominent public figures to come out as transgender. In at number 5, Lance Armstrong. In 2012, champion cyclist Lance Armstrong denied that he ever relied on performance-enhancing drugs. He referred to the doping allegations against him as outlandish and heinous. However, when the U.S. Anti-Doping Agency revealed compelling evidence, the cyclist's house of lies began to crumble. The agency released about 1,000 pages of evidence in doping allegations against Armstrong and his teammates. This led to him being stripped of 7 Tour de France titles and bronze Olympic medal, plus his secret forced him to step down as chairman of the Livestrong Foundation. Armstrong would later give a detailed account of his doping to Oprah Winfrey in 2013.
I view this situation as one big lie that I repeated a lot of times.
In at number 4, Arnold Schwarzenegger. This secret that Arnold kept ended up being the bombshell that destroyed his marriage. Just 5 days after Arnold's then wife Maria Shriver gave birth to their 4th son in 1997, the couple's housekeeper, Mildred Patricia Baina, also gave birth to a son by the same action star. He kept this child of his a secret until he completed 2 terms as California's governor in 2011. Then he finally confessed his infidelity to Shriver and later the public. All it took was the media identifying the mystery baby mama, and thus the celebrity scandal had been completed. There have always been celebrities that kept their kids out of the public eye, but nothing in terms of what Arnold was able to pull off by keeping this all a secret for so long. Imagine seeing that kid and be like, this kid looks like Arnold's son. Was that Arnold's son? In at number 3, Charlie Sheen. No one has really been attacked in the press like Charlie Sheen has. Not saying he hasn't earned some of his controversies, but let's just say that there are some very shady people in this world. The notorious actor appeared on NBC's Today Show in 2015 to announce that he was HIV positive. Charlie had been diagnosed with HIV 4 years prior and finally revealed his secret after several people actually tried to blackmail him. Allegedly, there were some people threatening to reveal this secret unless he gave them $10 million.
I'm here to admit that I am in fact HIV positive. And I have to put a stop to this onslaught.
If the timeline is 4 years from this interview, then his diagnosis would have come right as this whole controversy with the show 2.5 Men started. You know, the one where he said in a bunch of interviews that he had tiger blood and Adonis DNA. Like, it's no wonder with that much press on him already that he didn't want to also reveal what could even be perceived as a weakness to his health. In at number 2, Drake. This one was a huge reveal because for so long people were just simply speculating on whether or not Drake was dating someone. So when Pusha T released a track with a line directed at Drake that said, "You are hiding a child, let that boy come home, Adonis is your son," everyone that was watching that feud had this jaw-dropping moment when Drake finally revealed his secret son named Adonis. How did Pusha T know this? Drake would later record a song called Emotionless that explained why he had kept his son hidden from the public. He just didn't want to expose his son to the world that would have had their eyes on his every move. And it's understandable, but I believe it baffled people because it wasn't like he was like happily married to someone. He appeared to just be this rolling stone that was always rumored to be romantically involved with one celebrity or another. Last but certainly not least, on our number 1 spot, Justin Timberlake and Jessica Biel. Like many celebrities on this list, JT and JB have had an awful time trying to keep their personal lives out of the public eye. One thing that has certainly helped keep a lot of secrets is, well, this pandemic. I mean, if the paparazzi can't come within 6 feet of you and everyone's on lockdown in their homes, the tabloids must be just suffering right now. Although the Daily Mail still found a way to unearth some celebrity secrets when they revealed that Jessica had secretly given birth to a baby boy. The family are thought to be in Big Sky, Montana, where they have been spending time amid the coronavirus pandemic, and both of them have neglected to share any details whatsoever about the pregnancy, so I guess we'll have to check the Daily Mail if you want info on that celebrity secret.